Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's your girl Jams. I'm back once more for Voices That Heal. Apologies for earlier. We had a little technical difficulties. That's what happens when you're not live in a studio. You know, you are subject to the whims of technology. Trust me, in all of my years of podcasting and broadcasting, I would be lying if I said that's the first time I've had technical audio issues. So, that being said, welcome back. I apologize for that, but we are going to kick off this episode like nothing even happened. So, again, I'm your girl Jams. I'm your host for this evening. I apologize for missing y'all last month. Like I mentioned, Heal had their second annual now. I'm very excited to say that. Their second annual African American Lung Cancer Patient and Caregiver Summit. And I was really, really, really excited for that. And we had a lot of work to do to pull that one together because the difference between last year and this year is that none of us live in Houston. And so everything we needed to do was very much remote and very, very hard to do when you don't live in the state that it's happening. So Atlanta offered us a little bit of comfort and flexibility because most of us lived in Atlanta, so we could run around and get stuff done right up until the moment. We had to bring it with us to Houston, and so that was part of the struggles, but it was an amazing event. I met some amazing people, including my guest for this evening. We're going to have a really great conversation tonight about just health and life insurance with lung cancer and some of the pitfalls and some of the things to be aware of, and also some of the resources that maybe we're not aware of. I met this wonderful young woman at the summit, and the first thing she said was she was so excited to try and share with us and connect with us about some of the things and the resources that were available just from listening to the content. And so I said, okay, well, I got to get you on the show then, because it sounds like you got a lot of info to share. So as a normal reminder, we are live on both the Heal Collaborative YouTube page and the Facebook page. So make sure you check us out and keep connected there. It will go into the Voices That Heal individual lung cancer group. So if you're not connected to that, please do jump into that group. That is for just lung cancer patients connected with the Heal Collaborative, just to share some information. Kind of think of it as a branch off of the summit. So we're trying to get as many folks from the summit into that group as possible so that we can continue some of these conversations. We can start to look at conversations for next year. And most importantly, we can connect and collaborate with each other for some of the things and the resources that we might need as lung cancer patients navigating this journey. So I want to take a moment, though, and introduce you guys to Cheryl Thomas, who's my guest for this evening. And she is going to walk us through the ins and outs of insurance with lung cancer. So Cheryl, thank you for being patient. I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties, but welcome to the show, and how are you doing tonight?
Hi, thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I was just delighted at everything that I experienced at the summit, and just so glad that I haven't had an opportunity to meet you guys. It was a wonderful event, like you said. You guys did a great job with that. I learned so much, and I just felt like, let me just share a little bit about what I, have to offer here, and things that could benefit, so many different people. Just a little bit about me. For years, I worked in the finance industry. I worked in pretty much every area of credit you want to that there is. And then finally, once I moved here to Atlanta, I started my own mortgage brokerage. I did that for several years, and then the market crashed, and the housing market, and I ended up getting a regular job at another finance company. And when I retired from there back in 2022, that's when my cancer journey started. Because pretty much 3 months after I retired, I was in the emergency room for something totally unrelated to lung cancer. And that's when a nodule was found on my lung. And again, just a whole journey learning, and just thanking God for the experience all the way, because those are the things that make us stronger. And those are the things that put us in situations where we can help others and share with others. So just jumping right into the topic about insurance.
Wait, before we do, disclaimer, folks. So while she is a licensed insurance agent, I am not a financial counselor or an insurance agent. And even with her being a licensed insurance agent, please, please, please make sure you talk to somebody that is dedicated to your finances and to your, policies to make the best decision. So we're going to give you some advice, some suggestions, and some tips. please don't make any crazy decisions and say Heal Collaborative told me to do it. I just want to put that disclaimer out. We are not those people. We are just talking to you guys and giving you some friendly advice and maybe some tips that you can investigate with the people in your life. So now we can jump into, I just want to make sure I put that disclaimer out there. I don't want no one their accounts and saying Heal told them to do it. I'm like, no.
Exactly. You know what? Exactly. And I just want to limit it to add on to that. All right. That what we're going to cover is basically general information. Everyone's situation is different. And everybody has their own journey that they're going to go through and, meet us, fully recovered and just make the best decisions for you personally. And if you do have a question about something we talk about tonight, and it is specific to your situation and you want to talk about it with me in more detail, then my phone number is 470-693-0572, and we can discuss your specific situation. Fair enough?
Absolutely. And I will do my best to get all that information out to you guys in the comments and in the chat at the end of the show. So make sure that you keep connected to the show. Even after we're done having the conversation tonight, you're still able to connect and ask questions with us in the YouTube page and as well on the Facebook page. So again, you can always connect if you're watching this after the fact. You can always still get the same information, but also you can connect with Cheryl or myself if you have additional questions. So yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
So I guess the first question that I want to jump into, and I guess it's sort of setting the stage for the conversation, is just that difference between Medicare and Medicaid. And so I'm young. And so, I just haven't had to really think about it yet. I mean, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think just if you are able, can you give a little bit of a breakdown between the difference between Medicare and Medicaid for the audience?
Okay. Well, Medicare is specifically in place for people who have retired, or, if they have a certain disability, then they can get Medicare that way as well. Medicaid, however, is basically state funded. Medicare, and going back to Medicare, that is basically insurance that we pay for through our whole career as we are working. And after you've worked 10 years or more, you have qualified for Medicare. And they basically will say 10 years or 40 credits. You get 40 credits, whichever one comes first. But once you qualify for Medicare, that's basically a benefit that you have earned through your time at work. Medicaid, however, is coming from our state tax dollars. It's generally funded by the state with some funding that comes from the federal government. And it is mostly in place for people who really who are living below the poverty line in most cases. Or if you have a certain disability, you can also qualify for Medicaid.
Gotcha.
And so going back to Medicare, when it comes to lung cancer, okay? Because Medicare, there are different levels, even though you've earned that benefit, there's still some portion that you're going to be paying for out of your Social Security. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a small fee for that, monthly payment for that. Right now, most people pay about $185. And again, that comes directly out of your Social Security money. However, if you don't qualify, then you can pay for it directly. And then depending on what your earnings are or what your financial status might be, your whole household earnings are, that fee might be a little bit more. If you qualify for Medicaid, that fee might be covered by Medicaid. So it depends on each individual person's status. The good thing about it is, though, Medicare is going to be managed by your national insurance companies like Humana, Aetna, United Healthcare, the major
Blue Shield, yeah.
Mm-hmm, they're going to manage it. So you don't have to worry about qualifying for that coverage when you age into it at the time of when you turn 65. If you already had a cancer diagnosis, prior to your turning 65, you don't have to worry about qualifying for that coverage. And in actuality, with the current Affordable Care Act, you still don't have to worry about previous prior existing conditions. But with some insurances that are still out there, there is underwriting, and you do have to qualify for part of it. And the reason I bring that up is with Medicare, your Part A, you got your Part A, and you got Part B. Mm-hmm. And basically, the coverage is going to cover 80% of your medical cost. So you got that 20%, though, that you're going to have to figure out. And a lot of people will get what's known as a supplemental policy that's going to fill in the gaps. Your copays and things like that are going to come from your supplemental policy. And you have to health qualify to get the better supplemental plans unless you age into it. That is the only time that you can get that supplemental plan and get your traditional Medicare Part A and Part B. Okay. We hear a lot about MAP plans, which is Part C, which is basically, again, handled by those same carriers, the national carriers. The only thing is, though, if you have an existing condition, sometimes it might be better for the individual to stick with original Medicare, because if they want to do something that's a little unconventional, if you're dealing with an MAP plan, in a lot of cases, there might be some stipulations, some rules that might make it harder for you to get the care that you need if you have a pre-existing cancer diagnosis. So it's always better. It really works out better in a lot of cases to have traditional Medicare if you have a cancer diagnosis.
And so now traditionally, or I guess historically, I should say, Medicare and Medicaid are, well, as of 2022, they've now been amended to cover low-dose CT scans and screenings for lung cancer. Now, I'm not going to get on my soapbox. We all know how I feel about the lung cancer screening criteria and how it's very flawed. But for those folks who are, younger like myself, who are obviously underneath that Medicare sort of qualification age, how does that work for us? You know what I mean? Because I'm right under that 40 mark, which means I'm not in that, retirement age yet. I'm not in that 50 to 77, screening criteria age as well. So do we have any accesses to Medicare at a younger age, or is this traditionally only reserved for folks that are, maybe between that 50 to 77 range?
For people that are younger, it's going to have to go through Medicaid. Now, I can take that question to, because my wheelhouse is mostly life insurance. Mm-hmm. I've been doing life insurance for most of my career. Medicare and Medicaid, those are things that I've been doing recently in the past few years. So to get into specifics like that, I would like to just take that to one of my colleagues.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's just a question that I have, but there is one in the chat right now that I'm going to throw at you from Team Ruby. And if you want to take that to the colleagues as well, that's fine. And then we can always come back to this question and answer after the recording is stopped. But she asks, are there cuts and stoppages with Medicaid right now due to the new administration and funding issues on the federal level? So I mean, we're all kind of worried about what's going to happen with Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, just based on the administration. So do you have any insights on that, or anything that folks should be thinking about or worried about, I guess we should ask?
At this point, we're all just kind of waiting to see the details. From what we understand, that bill was just passed like 1:00 in the morning yesterday. And we haven't gotten all the ins and outs just yet. So we're all just kind of waiting on that. But yes, I can definitely follow up on that to see what kind of changes and who's going to be impacted. I'm really very concerned myself
Yeah, I think
because
we're all we're all worried. I mean, you
yeah.
work your whole life for Social Security and everything, and then when it gets finally your time, I know my mom was looking at that like,
Mhm, mhm.
really? Like it is my
We
turn?
exactly,
So, yeah.
exactly, exactly. So
Ruby just
yes.
asked again also which bill was just approved. Yeah, I mean, we didn't even know one got approved at 1 o'clock this morning. I think that's news to me and to a couple of us right now. So
Yeah, that's the only term. There's not even a House bill. It's in term the big beautiful bill. That's all we know, and
sorry,
it's
my face said it.
yeah, the big beautiful bill was passed in the middle of the night by the House Republicans, and now it's headed over to the Senate. And based on what I'm hearing, it's going to pass the Senate. And um,
Brace yourselves, essentially. We're all just kind of in a waiting game, waiting to see what happens, essentially,
exactly,
unfortunately. That's
exactly.
scary. So let's transition off of this because that's terrifying. Let's jump
Yes,
into the life
yes.
insurance side of the conversation. So
Okay,
I will
okay.
tell you and I will share some personal information about myself. I am the dummy that let her life insurance policy lapse a few years before I got diagnosed with cancer. And so every day I wake up in the morning and I kick myself squarely in the butt for that. But I have looked at options and stuff in terms of like, obviously when you're working and you have a private insurance, they offer you some, life insurances through your company. Now, obviously you can't get, $1 million coverage, but there is
Mhm,
options, for, somewhere less than like $500,000 of coverage where sometimes they won't ask you for a physician's report and things like that. So
mhm.
anyway, that's just my own personal story. I've been trying to navigate through working full time to try to keep some form of life insurance on me. But again, wake up every morning and kick myself for letting that happen. I just was like, I don't need it right now.
Did
Fast
you get
forward.
did you get that coverage in the state of Georgia?
No, so I grew up in Massachusetts, and I had this coverage in I probably want to say like Philadelphia, New York. Definitely not New York. It was probably more Philadelphia. This was pre-diagnosis, and New York was where I got diagnosed. So it was
Mhm.
definitely like Philadelphia time, where I was just young and running around and thinking life wasn't going to touch me. As we all kind of are at that age of life. So yeah, it lapsed, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, it's fine. I don't have the
Mhm.
money right now for it, and kicking every morning, swiftly kicking myself
Yeah,
in the
tell
butt.
me about it. Well, the reason I bring that up is Georgia has a 3-year reinstatement rule. So, but you have to pay all back payments, of course.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
if it was, depending on the carrier, we could definitely look at the details on that and look at the state insurance rules. And like right now, like I said, Georgia's 3 years. If you wanted to get your policy reinstated,
3 years without like a doctor's note or anything like that? Or, how would that work exactly? And are there any other
um,
states that offer that?
any other states?
Yeah, like so you said Georgia has a 3-year reinstatement
Yeah,
policy. Like can
I would have to.
Philadelphia or Pennsylvania and other states do it?
Yeah, I would have to look into their rules specifically on
Yeah.
that. And a reinstatement is basically reopening, establishing the existing policy. It's not like you're qualifying for a new policy. So it should not. But I would have to research that one and get back with you.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
figure. I mean, that the reinstatement would be great, but I know it's definitely been more than 3 years, so I'm way past that at this point. My best bet is to hope and pray for a cure and then go back at it and be like, "Hey, I'm good now. Can I get back on the policy?" So
mhm,
let's talk through that though, because in terms of life insurance, for those folks who are already smarter than I am and have that life insurance in place, and
mhm.
God forbid happen to get a diagnosis, what are the kinds of like resources and things available to them as policyholders now that they have this sort of catastrophic life event, if you will? I put quotations
Mhm.
around it because like lung cancer doesn't have to be that death sentence, but what are
Exactly.
their options and things like that that are available to them as insured folks?
Yeah, the two things that came to mind, especially when we were at the summit and people were talking about the problems they were having and needing to have access to additional funds. A lot of the life insurance policies out there now come with acceleration clauses where the insurance company is allowing the individual to have access to those funds if they have to go into a assisted living facility, or if they receive a terminal diagnosis, they can get access to those funds, at least 80% of them in most cases. Every policy is different, but in many cases, a lot of those funds can be used while the person is still living. In addition to that, you've got wholesale policies out there. Whole life policies, where the individual has cash money, equity built up in the policy that they can borrow against. And that's another way to get access to funds in advance. But one of the main things that I'm kicking myself about was not having a critical illness policy, prior to my diagnosis. Because again, I just retired from my job. Social Security isn't designed to give you the lifestyle that you would had before working.
It's a very humbling paycheck for you.
Exactly. So if I had that policy in place prior to the diagnosis, getting a lump sum of, 50, 70, even $10,000 would have been wonderful, at that particular time. But now I know.
Yep.
Now I know. And I was delighted the first time I was at an event and I was sharing about that coverage. There was a person in the audience that I didn't know from the Man in the Moon. And she stood up to share that she had it in place when her diagnosis came through. And, well after her treatments and all of those things were over, she was still getting checks from that coverage. So it's definitely a phenomenal thing. Of course, with insurance, that's something you would have to qualify for. Most of those policies, if you have had, for instance, with cancer, if you've had it within the last 5 years, you're not going to qualify for the policy.
Yeah.
But if you've been 5 years cancer-free and you've not had any other major medical issues in the last 12 months, then, somebody can still, a person with prior diagnosis can still get that policy. And certainly one of the things I talk about a lot is with insurance, the younger you are, when you get it, the better the pricing. Every year that we wait, the premiums are going to get higher with every birthday.
Yep.
So, for people who have family members that, they don't have it, but it's, it's in the family, recommend that for children, especially when they're young. Get them covered so that, if it should happen down the line, they already have it in place. And again, getting it at a younger age helps with the pricing on it as well, a lot.
Yeah. And I think that the other thing to consider as well is these are the ways that you set your future generations up for success. We're all one major medical incident away from ruin, to be honest with you, in this country. And so just having policies in place that cover you for that kind of stuff, it doesn't mean go out and skydive any chance you get and speed race and do all kinds of crazy risky behaviors. But it does give you some confidence to know that if something should happen in the cards for you, you are covered because your family was smart enough to put that in place for you. Or if your family hasn't and you're young enough to be listening to this and taking action right now, then do that. You know what I mean? Get yourself a life insurance policy so you don't have to kick yourself every morning like me. But exactly. One of the comments I got on social media today is, and man, again, kicking myself. This lady, she did it right. She said she's so thankful and grateful that her mom took out a cancer policy back in the 70s when she got diagnosed with lung cancer in 2008. So she had been paying into that for over 30, close to 40 years.
Wow.
She says that policy saved us because insurance didn't cover everything. My mom literally got checks after every treatment and she was reimbursed for all travel costs to and from her doctor appointments, her chemo pills costs, and she paid less than $20. So she literally did it right, and I know there's a lot of folks out there in my cancer community who are like, shoot, man, can somebody pay for my travel to and from these appointments, So It's like,
Exactly.
if you know
Exactly.
better, do better. So if you're out there and you're listening,
Exactly.
you don't have a diagnosis, you're young, healthy, running around right now, just remember the FDA has been cut. They are putting whatever they want in our food. Like, literally, times is different now. Y'all got to be out here
Exactly.
protecting yourselves, because the government
Exactly.
and the whoever's up there are not doing it for
Mhm.
us. And so just put
Exactly.
policies in place to protect yourself and your family, so that if something tragic does happen, at least you're covered and you don't have to worry about going to the poorhouse after everything is all said and done because you can't even afford your medication. Um,
Exactly.
so I
It's
got one question in the chat for you, if that's okay to ask. Ruby chimes in again. She said, is it legal for a critical illness policy to be canceled after you use it? And same question for a hospitalization policy after being used. Is it legal to cancel or to, yeah, cancel it?
Yeah, a lot of those. I mean, no, it's not legal. I mean, it's not illegal. It is legal. A lot of
Oh,
them come are set up to. They include in the policy details that once they pay out that lump sum one time, a lot of them are going to pay it that one time. That's it. And
mhm.
then there are others that will state in the policy details that they'll pay it X number of times, or they'll pay a certain amount 4 times a year. But you have to read the details or go into the policy details
I did
to
not know
see.
that.
Yeah, a lot of the lump sum policies are only going to pay it one time. Yes.
Wow. Wow.
hmm hmm
So this is probably a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So what about life after cancer? So like, you've gone through this diagnosis and you've pulled out all this money out of your 401ks and your life insurance policies, and now you're still here, and you're, God willing, you're doing great. So is there a
hmm
way to refund those policies, or is there a way to get those funds back in the policies without, year after year paying into it? Because you build up that money, to take it out. So is there a way to get replenishment to those, or like, what does that look like for life after cancer? I know that's a hard question because we haven't really had to deal with it just a lot yet, but it's a question that I think we all have, because if you take all your money out of your life insurance and you're still here, like, how do I
Yeah.
put that money back now without having to just continuously pay into it? Is there any programs or anything for it?
Honestly, just you will have to continue to pay into it. It's a whole life policy, and for critical illness policies, that's different. But for like a whole life policy, you would have to just pay into it and replenish those funds. Most of them are designed to where they're only going to let you take out a certain amount, so that there always will be a death benefit there. But as
Okay.
far as the um, excess amount over the death benefit, that would have to be put back.
Okay.
Even with your IULs, especially with those, if the
What's
market,
the IUL? Just in
okay,
case.
that's the universal life insurance policies. And a lot of those are based on what the Standard& and Poor's is going on. A lot of them have fixed, you can get them with a fixed rate, but some of them do fluctuate with the market. And if the marketplace starts going down, the balance will start going down and people end up having to pay more money. So
Mm,
it is not uncommon. Life insurance is an investment tool just as much as it is an income protection source, as much as it is financial planning for your future, for your family. So yeah, there will be situations where you have to pay back into it. Yeah,
So you
unfortunately.
mentioned that it's different for critical illness policies. What's the difference between that then? Like, what would be the
Mhm.
what's the different outlook on those ones then?
Critical illness policies are usually classified as indemnity policies,
Mhm.
where they are paying you directly. It doesn't matter if you are paying the hospital. It doesn't matter what you do with the money. They're paying it to you directly. So it's a different risk category, and it's treated completely different than a regular standard life insurance policy.
Okay, gotcha. Just
Mhm.
wanted to clarify that in case anybody was asking.
Okay,
Um,
good
so
question. Really good
yeah,
questions.
because I mean, these are good questions to know, basically. So I mean, obviously all of this is contingent on you having life insurance already in place. Are there any options, any tips, tools, tricks, and resources for folks that don't have life insurance coverage, aside from maybe getting that small policy through a full-time job benefit or anything like that?
Um,
I know it's a hard question. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's a hard one because if you have a terminal diagnosis, it's pretty much impossible to get someone to insure you. There are companies out there, and they say guaranteed acceptance, and some of them say, but there's a difference between guaranteed acceptance, I should say, versus guaranteed issue. And if it's a guaranteed acceptance policy, in most cases, there is going to be a waiting period where they're not going to pay anything until that 2-year period is over. If something should happen within that 2-year period, most of the time, they're going to just refund all of the premiums that were paid into the policy, plus a percentage of interest, usually around 8 or 10% interest, somewhere in there. That is what would be paid out on those policies. But unfortunately, if there is a diagnosis, and as a licensed agent, we have to ask the questions. So yeah, it's very difficult. I don't know of any other than the ones that are advertising as guaranteed acceptance. And even with those, and in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, they are doing a medical information bureau check. You've ever heard of that, MEB?
Yep.
And so if that information is in the record, even some of them will turn down that policy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. Every day I wake up and kick myself in the butt smoothly, like, good morning, smack. It is what it is. But like I said, I'm blessed enough that I have continued to work full time. And so I've got benefits, and how much of that, is going to be usable, we'll see. But I mean, I get the option whenever I get into enroll with benefits. I'm like, let me get accidental life and death. I'm over here like a la carte. I'm like, I'll take dismemberment. Let me get Aflac. let me grab 2 of those. Just whatever I can get my hands on.
The best thing that you could do is, while you're still working, because of work insurance, and a lot of that, they will let you know if that policy is portable, meaning you can take it with you and continue paying on it. And the great blessing with that is, your health record isn't going to be an issue because you're already covered. So that is one of the ways that you can, hopefully, a person is healthy enough to be able to get a job with some benefits. And that's about the best way.
You heard it here first, folks. Not from us as licensed professionals, but get a full-time job and get some benefits, and then you can enroll in all that. So, I mean, I think I also have like a death benefit on mine as well, where it's like if something should happen to me, cancer unrelated or cancer, whatever. But if something should happen to me, it's like my family gets like 1.5 times my salary for a year. So I'm like, there you go. That's something. The best I can do for you. Here you go. So it's kind of like, I'll take it. But yeah, that's pretty much the only thing that I found as someone who's not insured. And, even my husband the other day, he's all excited. He comes to me with this letter, like, look, it says guaranteed acceptance. I'm like, babe, you think they're out here insuring sick people? Like, I promise you, they're going to ask for medical records. And as soon as they see stage 4 lung cancer, they're going to say denied. Like, are you crazy? No, like, essentially, you're basically asking us for a check right now. Like, so unfortunately, the marketing around it too is a little bit, it's a little misleading. They're like, oh yeah, we'll guarantee you everybody's covered. Like, no, not at all. Nice try though.
There are some that aren't. There are some that, when you look at the application, there are no medical questions on it at all. But there is a 2-year waiting period. Pretty much those. Yeah. So.
And also in that 2-year waiting period though, like, anything happens at all and they are going to cancel you, like what if I break my leg in that 2-year period? Does that mean, like is it only related to whatever your pre-existing condition might be, or is it like any kind of health related incident?
No. This is just a life insurance policy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was referring to a life insurance policy.
Okay.
So
I was like, all right.
Yeah, if I did, yeah, if you passed away within that 2-year period, that's what I was referring to. But there is another policy that I was wanted to share with you. Some other coverage that's becoming very, very popular, simply because there's a company by the name of Everest. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I think I have.
Yeah, they have been champions in the funeral planning business forever. And now they have partnered with a national insurance company by the name of Transamerica. So you can only get Everest coverage now built into your insurance policy. But it is a wonderful, wonderful insurance that will offer things like will planning, power attorneys, healthcare directives, all of those things absolutely free with the policy.
Okay.
In addition to that, things like, planning, because, when someone's grieving, they don't really know what to do. And one of the things I mentioned to you when we were at the event is right now, no one really knows this little known secret that in the United States, there are more funeral home businesses than there are car dealerships.
You told me that, and that blew my mind. I was like, what?
Yes, there are more funeral services than there are car dealerships.
Wow.
And it's amazing with what Everest has done is they have a database, and they can go in and tell you who's charging what on everything. And that's a part of the service that they do that, can make a difference between, 5,000 or 20,000, for a family that doesn't have much money to work with.
Right.
So that was something I found pretty amazing. I talked to a lady today who, the pricing on it, if you just got the minimum coverage, because like I was looking at for myself, it would be under $20 a month for me to have a small life insurance policy that had all of those extra benefits. Just, planning for my family for when my time comes, everything can just be taken care of, and it's just a lot less stress on the family. And you don't have to worry about shopping for the, best insurance company. Best funeral company. You've got a concierge there at your disposal 24/7. So that I found to be pretty outstanding. And
yeah, that is actually really that car dealership funeral home thing blows my mind, because I feel like you drive down the street and you see like there's at least 5 to 6 car dealerships across the street from each other, like Mitsubishi, Acura, Hyundai, Nissan, like they're all. That's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I was like, really?
Yeah. And it's something like more than 50% of American households do not have a will. So to have that service available to you at no charge.
I feel like I'm being called out. I'm sorry. No, but I'm gonna do it. I am, because I was at another summit right after the Heal Summit, and I was like, and they had a will and estate planning like program, and I was like, okay, I really got to get on this. You know what I mean? Like, got to figure out who I'm leaving all these sneakers to. So. No, I'm kidding. But I do need to get a will. It is on my list of things to do this year. It's on my New Year's resolution list. So hopefully by December 31st, I'll be able to say that I do officially have a will. So that's something I'm going to be working on. Do it through the military, because that's a free service that they offer. So I'm like, I'll take that resource and use it. So
okay, that's great. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, wherever I can. So we only have a few more minutes left. I do want to take just a few minutes to talk about 401ks because there may be some folks out there who actually have 401ks from their jobs and not life insurance. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about if you know any information on those, like what kind of resources we may have for 401k and 403b for cancer and terminal illness sort of withdrawals, if anything.
Honestly, I'm not a tax professional, so
Yeah.
That's really not my lane. I do know that generally, if you're under the age of 59 and a half, you're going to be subject to a penalty, and doing the loan against that money versus actually withdrawing it is the best route to go in order to avoid the penalties.
I did get a little research on that too. Yeah, it just says, a hardship withdrawal is possible, for immediate and heavy financial need. But, there's always going to be, like, you may get some of the fees waived for taking that money out, but Uncle Sam gonna get his money. So, like, no matter what you do, you're gonna have to pay taxes on that money because Uncle Sam don't care if you got cancer or kids. He's taking that money regardless. So, but there is also the terminal illness exception, which is the same thing. They'll let you, take a big chunk of your money out or, access your 401k funds without that 10% fee. But again, Uncle Sam gonna get his money. So like, just remember, if you're taking out a large sum like that, sometimes you look and you're like, it's not even worth it. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, I got $50,000 and you're going to take 28 of it. Like,
exactly. And another thing too, that a lot of people don't think about is, well, I should say people that are over the age of 65 and are retired and they have to, for whatever reason, withdraw that money, even in a situation where it is a hardship situation. They withdraw that money and they may not get that 10% penalty, but that dollar amount that they withdrew, it has to be added onto their
tax return
as income. So there's still
Uncle Sam gonna get his money. He does not care.
There's still going to be a tax implication.
Right.
Remember that to add that on.
In the last couple of minutes here, I have a couple of resources, but I want to give you an opportunity to shout out any resources that you may have or to give folks your contact information one more time if they want to dive deeper into some of these and ask you some additional questions. So why don't you share with the audience any resources that you may have on your end and also what your contact information is that you feel comfortable sharing with the audience for them to follow up with additional questions.
Absolutely. As far as resources for individual things that are going on, one of the best things you can do is to get with two sources. Number one, the facility that you're actually working with, if it's a cancer center or hospital, most of them have caseworkers there and they know all of the information, all of the resources that are available in that particular area surrounding whatever your diagnosis might be. In addition to that, depending on who your insurance carrier is, your healthcare insurance carrier, places like, companies like Aetna and United Healthcare and Humana, they all have healthcare advocates and caseworkers that are in the part of their network that will offer you those services at no additional charge. So those are the two best resources. There's another one. They have I'm trying to find their website here. Their address. Atlanta Cancer Care Foundation.org and cancercare.org. Now they offer things like grants to pay for housing, to pay for utilities, prescriptions, even insurance co-payments, even surgery and childcare. That was a great resource that I heard about. And then finally, to get in touch with me to get more details on any of the coverages that we talked about today, my office number is 470-693-0572. You can email me as well as at Cheryl Thomas at Health Markets, Cheryl.Thomas at healthmarkets.com. So much.
You messing folks up, man.
Okay.
You
Girl.
gave me the wrong email. I couldn't get a hold of you.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. And in addition to what you said, cancercare.org, I found that as well. They've also got an oncology social worker helpline. So if you are just in a financial bind, you're dealing with this cancer diagnosis, and you just want to talk through some options or even just find out what resources are out there, I will tell you guys, there are resources. You just need to look for them. So if you are really financially strapped, you're really just up against it, turn over every rock you can, get every piece of resource that you can, call every number that you can, just see what you can find out and what you can help or get help with so that it could take some of that burden off you. But they have a number, it's 800-813-HOPE, and that translates to 4673. So 800-813-4673. And you can speak with a cancer care professional social worker, and they can help you talk through some of the resources that they may have. There's also a cancer support helpline, and that number is 888-793-9355. And they're a 24-hour helpline that can help you address cancer costs, health insurance, and other things as well. So call the numbers, see what's available. You know, it might be something as big as, like you said, surgery help, or as little as just a help getting transportation to and from your appointments. But any little bit can help when you're really up against it. And of course, the shameless plug is connect with the organizations that you know. So Heal Collaborative, get connected with us, get connected with any of these other lung cancer organizations to see what connections they have. To be honest, they're all partnered with pharmaceutical companies, doctors, scientists, physicians. They may know somebody that knows somebody, or they may have some kind of information that hasn't quite hit the market yet or hasn't quite hit the public yet that they might be able to share with you to help you with what you need. So really lean into your resources. Like whenever people ask me what advice I'd give, I say lean into them, because there's a lot of things out there to help you, and you just need to ask. Unfortunately, you got to ask. They don't just offer up services on a silver platter. Unfortunately, you got to kind of go after them a little bit yourself, but there's nothing wrong with asking. So turn over every rock, turn over every resource, ask every question that you can, but do what you got to do to get the resources and the help that you need. So those are the ones that I found. Awesome. Again, this show is going to stay on the YouTube page and the Facebook page for the Heal Collaborative. So if folks want to continue this conversation, or if you happen to be coming to this conversation after the fact when we're not live, please feel free to drop questions, comments, concerns in the chat. And we'll definitely address them, and I believe Cheryl is in the Facebook group too, so she should be able to see it too. But definitely keep in touch and ask the questions that you need so that we can get them answered. But in the meantime, I want to thank you, Cheryl, for joining me tonight. This has been great. Even with the technical difficulties, we brought together a kick-butt show, and I definitely appreciate your patience during that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I want to encourage everybody just to keep plugging away. Remember, even when things are bad, God is still on the throne.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And folks, of course, if you want to follow me and catch up with me, you can check me out on Facebook. I am Jamie Jam on Facebook. Also on Instagram at just_jams. And then also on TikTok at It's Just Jams, all one word. So please go ahead and connect. And naturally, make sure you connect to the Heal Collaborative team. So we have, number one, a private Facebook group for lung cancer patients who are battling and going through their journey. Please feel free to join it. It's linked in all the social media promos for this show. Also, make sure you connect with the Heal Collaborative in general, because not just lung cancer, they have other avenues that they focus on as well, and other health initiatives. So make sure you get connected with them. There may be something that can help you or a family member. So make sure that you link up and see what else Heal can offer you in terms of education and resources. And then just anything else that you guys are needing. If you're interested in a topic or interested in joining me on the show, please feel free to reach out. I definitely appreciate all inquiries. Thank you so much for being patient with us during our technical difficulties, and for the month that I skipped last month. I promise I'll make it up to you somehow. But that being said, I'll be back again next month with a brand new episode. Until then, everybody stay safe. Have a happy and safe Memorial Day, and we'll see you next time on The Voices That Heal.